Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Ellie Asks. I'm Ellie Phillips. I am joined today by Louise. Now, Louise is a very dear friend of mine, and she is the partner of one of my husband's friends from university. And Louise, a bit of trivia, interesting for nobody, is Louise was the only person that I didn't know who I invited to my wedding. But since then, we have become firm friends. Our children are a very similar age. Our eldest are 2 months apart and our youngest are a month apart. So we have lived through the trials and tribulations of having two children quite close together. Lots of late night texts backwards and forwards saying, does your child do this? Does your child do that? I think mine's broken. Can I send it back? That sort of thing. And yeah, just a general like, and sending photographs of them laying down in the day asleep. I've got mine to sleep, to lay down. And
one picture, just the one time it happened. Is that fun?
I think I had it once, both of us. I'm hands-free. So from somebody I didn't know when I got married to somebody who's become a very close friend of mine through us having lots of treasured memories about when we had our children. And yes, but I'd like Louise to introduce herself a little bit more, tell you a little bit more about herself. So thank you for joining me, Louise.
Thank you for having me. I don't want to get too giggly because I'm just so excited to be talking to you. I have to get my serious hat on. But hello. I am partner to Sam, who is Danny, so Ellie's husband's uni friend. And we met a bit later in life. So before I met Sam, and when I met him, I used to work in theatre. So I used to dance and perform on stage, and when Sam messaged me about that before we met, he said, "Oh, so you just come on and do a little step dig and then walk off?" I'm like, no, my friend, that's not what I do. But all those lovely shows that lots of people like to go and pay good money to go and see that aren't running at the moment because of coronavirus. That was my background, and I had a really not lucky, but I feel very fortunate that it was my dream to dance, it was my dream to perform, and I did it. And I did it very successfully, to my own trumpet, but I did it all over the world. I travelled everywhere with it, and I, had lots of lovely, gorgeous positions. As I got older, and the one piece that was missing was finding a partner and having children, and and for me, that really didn't go hand in hand with performing. So I then retired. And had my children, and we moved to the burbs, what people do, and I took a little break because I'm fortunate enough that I was able to take a break, but just, I suppose, transitioning into a new path, not performing anymore. I wanted to put the kids to bed in the evening and be with them a bit more, and just working out the balance of we had the kids 21 months apart, which was planned, not probably the best plan, but and so just trying to work out how I have these two children, mum them, parent them the way that we'd had visioned and I'd wanted, and then try and work out how I make my way in life, whilst having a big career change or thinking about how to juggle it all, really struggling with the juggling. So and that's me. Hello, mostly.
So anyone who knows me well will know that I love musicals. So when Danny told me that Sam had a new girlfriend who was a dancer in the musicals, I was like, oh my gosh, complete fangirl, and then go, and so Louise, what happens? And what happens here? And what happens? The amount of musical and stage questions that I'd fire at Louise at various times when I met her. She might have think I was a little bit odd, but so, and lots of my friends were like, oh my gosh, she used to dance, because I think loads of us that was our dream, that would be our dream job. And then there was somebody who actually had done it. It was amazing, and done it very successfully. I will blow your trumpet. She was very good.
The worst part of that is that when people find out that that's what you've done, if we ever have a drunken living room little step dig, I always feel like, pressure, I used to do this for a living, get paid, I've got to get put out the mood. No. Yeah, we're just
I've got to step it up. People will be looking at me thinking, hang on, when she's busting out a proper moves, what's this?
Yeah. Then you don't want to like take the limit. You don't want to push the limits to the bar too high. It's like, why is Louise in splits in my front room?
Yeah. Anyway, we digress. So today's question. So the Ellie asked question today is, what am I thankful for? And actually, the question is, what am I thankful for today? But just before we started recording, I sort of said to Louise, does it change? So what are you thankful for?
Well, obviously I knew this podcast was coming up, so I've had a while to have a good think about this, and also good old coronavirus being around, strips everything back to the basics. And I think obviously when you're a parent, especially to young children, there's huge ups and downs of daily life, but when you strip it all back, it really is, thankful for my family, I'm thankful for my partner, I'm thankful for the children, I'm thankful for my health, our health. It's really the basics, really, the simple things, because no matter what changes around that, if you really just simplify it, as long as those basic things are there, then life is good, really. So I think I am thankful every day for the life I get to lead with my partner by my side and my children. And depending on what moment you get me, and they're both at school today, and so it's all very calm. I've got a really hot cup of tea, which, as I said, hasn't happened in about 5 years. So I've got my reed diffuser up there. I've got all the essential oils going, like really good. But sometimes depending on what moment we're in. Don't get me wrong. The steam coming out of my ears, and I'm like, oh my god, why did I do this? But no, essentially, it's the basics. It's the basics in life. It really is, because no matter how we progress, how we change, what happens, that will always be the core value to me, I suppose. Yeah,
and I think that's really key, that it is, when you said core values, it comes down to, and I've spoken about this in previous podcasts, because I think this is just like the crux of everything. Once you work out your core values and you work out what actually is really important to you, what could be taken away, and you'd be a bit like, I'm not really that bothered, and you end up with those core values, all those things, look at the things that really annoy you, and look at the opposite, and they're your core values. And I think, like you say, once you strip everything back, what am I most, what could I not live without, basically. So I just said to Louise off camera today that my daughter said to me this morning, when I grow up, I'm going to be a teacher, and I'm going to earn lots of money. I was like, might not earn lots of money in that profession, but so we can have lots of money. So for those of you that don't know, I've just given up my teaching career. So she's seen me be a teacher and then leave. And I think I must have dripped in the fact that I'm starting my new business, and that actually, it depends if we can afford it, that sort of thing. But trying to explain to her, she's nearly 6, trying to explain to her that actually that it doesn't necessarily, it's not all about having money. Yes, it gives you choices and all those sort of things, but what are the most important things to you? And I think, and again, I've said this on the podcast as well, that actually on your deathbed, what do you wish you'd done more of? What do you wish you'd done less of? And I think they always come back to your core values. Mm-hmm. Is it something that you speak to Sam about? Is it that, or are you just core values and what you're thankful for are just aligned? Because I'm wondering whether you may not have got past the first date if they weren't aligned in the first place.
I think when we first met, it felt like we both had green lights, if that makes sense. Like we were both totally on the same page, and actually our relationship was quite fast paced anyway. And so it felt like we were aligned, so that we do talk about it a lot, actually, because both of us have had huge for Sam a huge career change, and for me, I retired, and I'm working a few hours part-time around the children, but thinking about my future. So there's lots of change going on there, but when we talk about it, or we talk about money, or we talk about time, or we talk about the balance, we always end up filtering back on the same wavelength, and just being really, really thankful that we've had 2 kids and we still like each other most of the time and love each other all the time. Don't get me wrong, there are moments, and the kids are cheeky, feral wildlings, as you well know, Ellie, when we send from your house. But, just thankful for them because they're amazing. And so, and we often talk, money always tends to come up, doesn't it, as the, lots of people's stresses, and it's still obviously something you have to think about. But if you do strip that back, not that you can just live off, nothing, you do have to make a living, but if you strip everything back, it doesn't, the family, your connection, that's just the most important thing. And so, yeah, we do talk about it a lot because, and also we had a good chance to focus on it really with being in lockdown. Sam usually would have gone into London every day, and the kids would have been at school or nursery. And so actually we found ourselves on top of each other a lot of the time. And there were days where that was, dreamy and we were skipping through our day. And there were days where it was really hell on earth. But ultimately, when you sit back and just reflected on it and just took stock of like, hold on, like we live about an hour from, like kind of the coast, not on the doorstep like you, but, we just have these really simple days just by the coast with the kids, not spending a penny, nothing was open anyway, but just enjoying being alive, just enjoying being with each other. Or like dinners, normally we'd have all these staggered dinner times, and kids tend to eat a bit earlier anyway, but we were finding ourselves sitting down and eating together, and just thinking, actually, if you just strip it all back and take away all the stresses of the day, which is not that you just ignore them, that of course there are stresses in life and the world that we live in, but if you just strip it all back to the real basics, that we did feel really thankful and lucky to have our unit, to have what we have. Lots of things aren't perfect with us, lots of things aren't perfect, we've got lots of stresses in the background, but the basics are there, and if they're not, then that's when there's the problem. But so although times are really tough for us because we're a self-employed household, and one of the 3 million excluded households in the old government pay pack, but it was a really tough time and stressful time, but actually most of the days I felt quite happy, which is quite interesting when I thought about it. There were days as well where it was like really stressful, but especially trying to like homeschool and things like that. But most of the days when at the end of the day, like, we're actually really lucky. I like being at home with all of you. I like that there's no distraction and we can focus on each other and do a little Zoom and try and make some pennies or along the way. So
I think that something about lockdown and this podcast, I mean, as you're listening to this, is sort of January 2020, December, January 2021, that actually lockdown probably seems quite a long time ago, unless we have another one, because we're recording this in September, so unless we go into another one. But I put out on my Facebook page, on Ellie Flips Clouds Coaching, and in my group Struggling with the Juggling, around, okay, you're in lockdown, there's not a great deal you can do about that, but what will you keep from that? What will you keep from this time, and what will you get rid of? Because I know that you saying about eating together really resonated for me, because when often I would wait until the children had gone to bed and Danny and I would eat together, and they'd eat first and then we'd eat, whereas that time just sitting around the table together, having that discussion around listening to some music and just engaging more, was something that we've definitely kept more as we can, as Danny's gone back to work, as I went back to work, and that felt so important to me to keep to keep those days out that don't cost anything, those activities that the kids will remember, not the big things, because actually I don't think they're actually that bothered about the big stuff.
Sorry, should I cut
no
in there?
Go on. Yeah,
because it is such a basic thing, that sometimes when life is busy and when you're and it goes, and I'm seeing it even now, like a couple of days in, that back to work, back to school, the days are flitting by, that when it's so busy, it's easy to think those simple things, that it's almost like a reset button. That's what I found in lockdown, that when you had those moments, you were like, okay, we can tackle the world because we're good, and so when life gets busy, it's easy to think, actually, we don't need that. Oh, it's just a walk around the park together. Oh, it's just a tea together. Oh no, that doesn't work. It's easy to think that and dismiss it, whereas actually I think for me, lockdown showed me how important that really is, and not to undervalue that, I suppose.
But for me, the world slowed down. The world just slowed down. I was desperate for the world to slow down. I was still teaching at the time and running from pillar to post, picking the kids up, sorting all that treadmill stuff that I've talked about before. And I was desperate for it to slow down. And all of a sudden, like, my wish came true. I mean, horrific that it was a horrible time for many people. But but to see the positive in things as well, though, for me and my family, for me and like I say, horrific for loads of people and a very scary time. But when it was pure lockdown, when we were just in our house and we could go out for an hour a day, just to be able to say, okay, what is it that really matters to me? When you didn't have the choices, you could just, it was almost freedom for me as well. That there wasn't the extra busyness of it all, that you can just go, okay, these are the things that are really important. And actually, what do the children need? They don't need as much as probably we put the pressure on ourselves to think that they need or /want.
Yeah, I think as well, it's also, like your mindset there, because it could have been very easy for you to go, hold on a minute, there's a global pandemic, I'm just about sacking my my full-time, know what I'm getting every month job, and then I'm making this huge leap. Is this the best time? And so there's definitely a mindset there to think, how best to, using the tools you've got, how best to step forward, and thinking, this isn't the end of the world. My baseline is good. This is good. Let's move forward together. And then you're strong, and so that makes your mindset strong. Because actually, what I started to feel like before we were in lockdown was that things were slowly crumbling, almost out of my control. So I was like, the analogy you use a lot, you're spinning plates, and on the surface everyone's like, she's nailing it, yeah, she's got it, but actually inside and underneath, everything just felt like I felt like I was treading water all the time. And so I'm hoping, actually I can't swim anyway, but that's a whole other subject, but I'm hoping now that I feel like I'm doing a good breaststroke, so I'm hoping now that we can continue that not plain sailing, because obviously there's like storms that and things that come into the mix, but that strong swim, I'm hoping now that will continue. And I really don't want us to revert to not valuing or not appreciating, I suppose, the simple things.
Yeah, and I think when we come back to that analogy of spinning plates, that it's almost like you said, you've got a reset, you've got a fresh start, and almost like, what plates am I putting back up? Which plates am I focusing on? Because I had loads of plates around, different things for different people, but I don't know, activities that you ended up getting yourself involved in that you think, well, I don't actually really want to do that, but you feel there's a loyalty towards a certain group or a certain group of friends or a certain person maybe, that you feel like, oh, I've got to spin that plate, I've got to keep that relationship going. But actually, does it serve me? Is it something that's helping me in any way? Do I enjoy spending time with that person? Do I enjoy doing that? If the answer is no, then don't put that plate back on that pole and spin it, because it's kind of like you've had an automatic reset, like the world slowed down and it's kind of reset it for you. So use it as a time to make some choices. And again, like I say, well, you'll be listening to this sort of 6 months from now, so how the world will be at that point is different, but maybe this is there to bring you back to, because you may have gone back to that busy doing things that don't serve you or that you don't feel a value, and actually get rid of those plates, throw them off, let them drop, let them smash on the floor, because it's your life, and choose the things that you want to put your time and effort into. And if it's walks around the park, it's meals together, then
I do
back
wonder,
to that.
yeah, I do wonder as well if that is also, not to exclude anyone that hasn't had children, but do wonder if that is also something that changes once you become a parent. Because before having the children, I was always quite a yes girl, and I liked, if you've ever read the book Yes Man or seen the film, it's actually really funny, but not to that extreme, but I saw everything as an opportunity. And not that I couldn't say no, I could, but I always found that the more I said yes, the more I opened myself up to opportunity, the more things would happen, the more doors would open. And then so when the children came along, it took a while for me to work. And not that you're saying no to opportunity, but actually some things you have to say no to, because it means that it was impacting the base values. Yeah. So it meant just saying, actually, I'd love to do that, but I know that in saying yes to that, I compromise on that reset button, and that's not worth it in the long run. So that's what I found, that I've had to kind of get my mind around in the last 5 odd years since having the kids, really.
I think, again, it's those choices and going, what am I going to gain, but also what am I going to lose by that? And I think you're right, when you haven't had children, that maybe the gain and loss isn't so significant, because you still have quite a lot of time within your week, within your day, to find those other bits and have that those baseline, those really important core value stuff, and have that time to do it. Whereas, like you say, when you have the children, you have less of that time. I think that you're dead right with that. I think it's much easier, but I would imagine there's quite a lot of listeners listening to this that actually haven't got to the point where you are at, and haven't got to that point of going, oh, I can just say no because it impacts on my. I think there's loads of people out there who probably is going, I want to say no, but I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I've always said yes in the past. I've always said yes. I'm that yes person. I'm up for anything. I'll do it, even though internally in your head saying, I'm not that interested in that anymore.
I think as well, it is the pressure sometimes, you think of they expect me to say yes, or what are they going to think if I say no to that? And so it's also getting to that real kind of, not rock bottom, but that kind of sort of, actually it doesn't matter what they think. I'm living my life, that my thankfulness are my appreciations are, my most important things are protecting what I'm thankful for, my family. And so you always say, if it doesn't serve you, so if I know that in the big picture, just for that day, that's not going to work out for us, it's okay to say no. And obviously everyone comes from all different walks of lives, and lots of people deal with stresses, or you can. So we often talk about it, don't we, when like for me, my safety net is being out of the house with the kids. For me, I have to get out. It's they turn into feral wildlings, but they're dreamy, and indoors and I am always like that too. I have to get out. But for you, your safety net was always to be in. So we're totally opposite. And so if you say, for instance, invited me on a play date, actually, can we stay in? For me, I'd be like, oh God, okay, I really want to see it, I really want to see you, I really want to see the girls, but staying in, I know my children are going to be absolute nightmares. And so they're lovely a lot of the time indoors too, but
they are lovely, they are really lovely.
If I say no to someone, to you might then be like, I'm just inviting her for a play date round, like what's the big issue? But just I suppose not having a thicker skin, but and if they're good friends, you can explain everything as and so if it's like laying yourself up, and if you're layering yourself up with good people, then they're going to get it anyway. And if they don't, then not to be cold, but then it's probably not going to work out along the way anyway, is it? So I suppose, being thankful for your base values, but layering yourself up around that with with good friends. And
and I think you're right. I think that people go through life realizing that people are different. We all know everyone's different, and we all know people experience things differently, but we still get a bit uppity or a bit upset or a bit disappointed when somebody doesn't want to do something you've suggested. So if I suggested you come into me, I mean, I wouldn't, because I obviously know, but you could understand why somebody wouldn't understand why you don't want to stay in, because from their mind, their experience of raising children. So from my experience of raising children when the girls were younger, was that if I went out, I found that really stressful. I found it really stressful, keeping an eye on what's going on with the roads. One one's one way, one one's the other way. And I just thought, no, until there's Danny's around or there's my mom and there's, one adult per child.
Really hard to get outnumbered, isn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't be outnumbered. That didn't seem doable for a long time for me. So I was so ingrained, and that was so ingrained in my brain. It was so in my psyche of being a parent that I couldn't do that. When you used to tell me, oh yeah, I take them out for hours, just me, and we just go when we go to the woods or whatever, I was just like in awe, absolute awe of that. And I couldn't believe that you, oh yeah, I make a picnic and we go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's like superwoman, because, and I suppose that we know people are different and we know we experience things differently, but would still potentially, if you didn't know that person really well, get upset by the fact that they didn't want to do what you wanted to do. Sorry, I don't want to say something.
No, I was just to say, I think that it's an inverse relationship there too, because as much as you're looking at me going, oh my God, look at her, like, meandering through the woods, I'm also like, oh my God, look at Ellie, like arts and crafting it up with the girls, like all day at home. Like I there's just no way I could do that. So the respect is still there, and because we're such good friends, and I say, come on, let's go out, and you say, come on, let's say, no, we work out. And I think as well, like I see Ellis has kind of started school. He did start school last year, but didn't really get much of a run at it. And it's trying to, you're meeting lots of new people there, people that want to start forming these relationships with you, and you're saying people that really have different expectations, or what they think is, well, not acceptable, but what they think is, this is no problem, this is no issue. So I find I'm constantly facing that. I'm constantly thinking, oh, I'd like to do that, but I know I'm going to be tired on that day. So I've been teaching all day. I know I want to tidy my house. If I don't tidy my house, I know my brain won't be clear for the week. And so if you say to someone, oh, I'm going to say no to that invitation because I'm tidying my house, you're like, easy. That doesn't often happen. but still, I think it's just working out how for me, how I can keep my brain clear to like function on this journey, this drive that, whether you like it or not, you're living through, like life's taking you on. So just as long as we're all holding hands, we're all good, and then walking along and picking up things along the way, great. But as long as we're holding hands and walking firmly on the road together, that's it,
And it's like you say, it's a bit like that expectation that they're like, oh, everything's okay, but if you come back to your core values and come back to what you're thankful for daily and what is important to you, you can think, oh, they'll probably think that's a bit stupid, that I don't want to do, or they'll think that's a bit odd, why they may not understand, but I know why I'm doing it. And having that acceptance of, these are my core values, this is what's important to me, and I know why I'm doing it, and I know it's best for me and my family, then I think it makes the ride a lot easier, the ride of life a lot easier, because then you can just put it to bed, settle it, and rather than having some worries around what will they think, I should have done this, maybe I should, maybe I'll text them and say I will come, but actually go, no, it's not right. I've done it before and it's proven it's not been right, so I'm not doing it again, because this is what's really important to me.
I think the thing is, for me is, and Sam's actually really good at this. Sam, he's clear cut. He says it how it is, and I'm very much like that too. But not so much when it comes to friends and family, because I just desperately not want to please people, but just want to always be supportive, always want to take the opportunity to be with them. And it's knowing that if you do say no, that it doesn't matter. And if people do think silly, or do think that's weird, or do think like, what's her problem, doesn't matter. And knowing that, don't let that offload onto me. We're holding hands, we're good, this is what I need to do. And it will tick along, and then there'll be other opportunities. It doesn't mean you say no all the time either. There'll be other opportunities, but not that you don't, not caring either, that's the wrong word, but in that moment you're assessing what's the best foot forward, and in that moment that doesn't work for you, and that's fine. And it doesn't matter anything, all the chain of reactions that then go to to doing that, doesn't matter. The core, everything in the core, everything, that's the right decision. So for me it was not caring not caring, but not worrying what people think of my responses, I suppose, or and that doesn't mean that you just you're not
going through life blasé going whatever, no.
So
I think what a fantastic way to end the episode, basically saying, have your core, have the things that you're thankful for, and once you've worked those out, you live by them, and then once you're living by them, it makes life so much easier, and you can accept the choices you make without worrying about what people think or the decisions you've made. So last thing, I just want to say thank you, Louise. It's been amazing. It's been ace to have you on Ellie Asks. I've really enjoyed it. And we'll hopefully see you and the family very soon.
Oh, I hope so. I can't believe we got through it without a big giggling spree. We were before we started this, we had about 10 takes of, you should do the outtakes of us trying to start.
Right. Take care.
Thanks, Ellie. Bye.